Welcome back. Season 3 of the Straight from the Crest podcast. I'm joined once again by my great friend Garrett Bastardi as we're going to do everything we can to kind of preview Penn State's upcoming game this week against West Virginia. We'll be live every Thursday on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. Half the game will be the recap from the previous week. Unfortunately, this week, no game really to recap. Today's show, we're going to break down Penn State's offseason, talk about kind of what went well, what went wrong to end their year, give you a breakdown of West Virginia, kind of guys to look out for, our own predictions, and we're going to talk ball. First and foremost, this is brought to you by Protochol Beverage. Guys, if you haven't tried it yet, go try it. It's a fun drink to have. It's a great drink to have during the game, as you can see the flag and link in the bio below to go get it. But yeah, Garrett, season 3, welcome back to the show. You're live from State College. How you doing?
Good, Mike. I'm grateful to be back. Excited for another year of football. It's that time of year where it's just like anything's possible. A lot of hype. A lot of the hype train has left the station for a lot of teams. Our born and bred team, Penn State, has a lot of bright possibilities ahead of them the next few months here, and so just excited to be a part of the ride and excited to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, so I believe number 7 heading into the year, although the rankings really don't mean anything, as we know, until that initial college football playoff comes out. Garrett, when you see the number 7 ranking, what do you make of it?
Yeah, I think that this team isn't really flying under the radar per se. I think this is the highest preseason ranking since maybe 2017, 2018, that time frame. And obviously we knew what that 2017 team was close to doing with some unbelievable skill position players. Maybe the best top line Penn State's had in a while with Trace and Saquon and the beast at wide receiver and Gesicki at tight end. But this team has the same sort of top line talent, but I think there's a little bit more depth behind it. And I also think this season's defense is one of the best defenses that we have seen. From a depth perspective, from a just at all 3 levels, elite pass rushers, really good linebackers, obviously led by Abdul Carter, and then a secondary that is potentially the best secondary in the country. 2 guys that you can just put on islands, out on the end. And yeah, it's just going to, from everything that I'm hearing right now from our guys on the inside, a lot of it has to do with leadership. No more Tig Brown kind of anchoring the backside of the defense. No more Sean on offense. Obviously, we had him for 14 years, and that's a long time. You have to replace someone like that. But yeah, there's so much to be encouraged about. But number 7, I think it's a fair ranking. I think anywhere 6 to 10. I think Penn State has more. They have more to prove than teams per se than say like Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Georgia. Those teams deserve to be 1 through 5, 1 through 6. Penn State's got to earn their way into that club. So I think 7's a pretty fair ranking going into the season.
I agree, and just to kind of touch on last season's performance, really outside of that Michigan game and outside of the fourth quarter against Ohio State, encapsulated by the big win out in Pasadena for the Rose Bowl, I think it was one of the best seasons we've seen at Penn State, despite not making that Final Four. And this may be the year, but of course it's all dependent on the quarterback position. We've harped that for the last 2 years. You're only going to go as far as your quarterback can. And as you mentioned, no more Sean Clifford, no more. And say what you want about Sean, you can't knack his leadership skills, and you can't really even knack his performance. I think he shut the haters up last year, posting his best stats of his Penn State career, leading them to that Rose Bowl win, just being an integral part of the program. But now it's the doors open. That quarterback position, although Franklin really hasn't named Drouillard to be the starter, we know he will be. Bo Pribble, hopefully they do some cool packages this year. Hopefully they don't do the Tommy Stevens, very predictable. We know what we're going to run. There better not be a lion on the depth chart. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, coming off a season, Garrett, where 10 of the 11 wins were by double digits, 6 were by 28 plus points, and now it's the ball's in Drouillard's hands, and the hype is there, man. But Drew's never started a game.
Yeah, I think that last year was such an interesting year. For the first time in what felt like a long time, Penn State didn't drop a game that they shouldn't have, that they should have won, right? You go back to 2019, you lose a Minnesota game on the road that keeps you out of the playoff. 2018, you lose a Michigan State game at home. 2017, you lose Michigan State on the road. 2016, Pittsburgh on the road. 2020, obviously, there was a lot of those games where you probably should win and you don't. Same with 2021. Last year, the team took care of business, won the games they were supposed to win, and unfortunately, just didn't play their best football in the games that they needed to play their best football in. But the team was young. You're anchored by two freshmen at running back. And a little bit of a patchwork line that got better as the year went on. But yeah, I think the biggest question mark is Drew and Drew Aller and whether if he is elite, if he is the talent that we think he is, but if he can come out and be really a difference maker and someone you can hang your hat on and someone that can win you games, this team has a playoff ceiling without question. I don't think for everything that Sean was able to give us, and I think I have a lot of respect for him. The guy is a backup quarterback in the NFL now. I mean, you have to tip your hat to him. I don't think we are ever going to sit here and rely on him to win Penn State football games. You could do that with Trace, but he didn't have necessarily the supporting cast around him his last year. Drew has a lot of weapons around him, has the best offensive line that Penn State has had under James Franklin. You can make a really persuasive argument that he has the best running back duo in the country. The question is, can he kind of step up and be that difference maker that can win you a Big Ten championship and get you to the playoff? We don't know. I can't. What are we? I mean, I can't sit here and say, yeah, he's going to do it. You can't sit here and say, yeah, he's going to do it. Clearly, he has a talent. Guy I was talking, play a lot of golf with, who is inside the program, says, he's the real deal and very talented. But it's early in the year. It's going to be some growing pains, I think. And so, his ceiling, is the team ceiling is related to Drew's ceiling, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and like you said, we don't know that he's going to go out there and put together a Heisman season. Traditionally, five-star quarterbacks at Penn State have not worked out. They really haven't. Penn State's found its success. The most notable one being three-star Trace McSorley, who was predicated on the ability to make plays when it breaks down. He wasn't a great passer. Sean wasn't a great athlete, but they kind of had that. Now we got a guy with the intangibles to really set the program apart. And like you said, he's got the guys around him. Maybe not at the wide receiver spot. They took a key loss there, losing Mitchell Tinsley and Parker Washington. Yeah. But like you said, they have a chance, Garrett, to have two 1,000-yard backs in that backfield and one of the deepest O-lines in all of football, which personally makes me feel good knowing that they have that protection. We know they at least have one playmaker on the outside and two really strong runners who are going to be the difference maker. I mean, we saw it in the Rose Bowl. We saw it against Michigan. They can take a handoff and bust it 70 down the sideline untouched. And that makes me feel more comfortable knowing that they have kind of the meat and potatoes of an offense outside of if they had a very flaky offensive line and a subpar running back and studs at wideout, because we saw that before. When Saquon Barkley was here, when they had Chris Godwin, Saheed Blacknall, the 2016 year, their offensive line was horrible. It's 2 years ago, it was horrible. But I think the development and hats off to the coaching staff, man, what they were able to do. And I'm interested to see how these running backs have evolved. But let's kind of talk about the wide receiver room, because before we get into the preview, let's do a little roster. As I mentioned before, Parker Washington, NFL, Mitchell Tinsley, who came over as a grad transfer, really helped out, which I think Malik McLean from Florida State's kind of filled that role this year, as well as they brought over Dante Cephas from Kent State, who is going to make an immediate impact, I think. But the wide receiver room, Garrett, there's a lot of shoes to be filled, and there's a lot of guys there who really haven't proven themselves. Who really, in terms of playmakers, who are you looking to kind of step up this year to fill those shoes to a guy after the game this weekend that we say, wow, like did not expect to see that?
Yeah, I think Amari Evans is going to be someone who's going to jump out at people. Kind of flying under the radar, but I've heard some really good things about his, the capabilities that he has. Keandre Lambert-Smith is going to be someone I think who's going to seamlessly transition into a position where he's going to be a big time player for this team, and he's going to make. He's going to fill a big position, and I think he's going to be someone who's reliable. Dante Cephas obviously has had a very good career up to this point. He's a dude. He is someone who's you look at him, he is physically built. I think that he is a step up physically when it comes to when we look at previous transfers that come in, maybe physically better than Mitchell Tinsley. The question is, how much can he really ingest the entire offense? I hear he's running with the twos, running with the threes right now. And so how much is he going to get in there? He obviously has experience performing for Kent State, but can you come up and perform on a big stage, under the lights at Beaver Stadium and big Big Ten events? So I would say that, Amari Evans, Keandre Lambert-Smith are the two guys I would really watch. Obviously, Harrison Wallace is going to be someone who is going to be, play a role. And then, like you said, I think Malik McLean, 6'4", 6'5" body, big guy out of Florida State, is going to be someone who can, if his hands work, can be someone you can throw jump balls up to. And he's built differently than previous wide receivers that we've had. Think a little bit Jawan Johnson, like big, strong, athletic guy who can guard this guy. But the thing is, you got to catch the ball. And so that's really what it comes down to. We're getting used to seeing guys like Jahan Dotson, who might have the best hands I've ever seen, play for us. Parker Washington, Mitchell Tinsley, those wide receivers have become, staples for this offense. Drops cannot happen. And so I'm just really interested to see how this room, I think that it's the only question mark on the offense. It really is the only question mark on the offense. Obviously, Drew is a question mark about how good he can be, but we know he's going to be serviceable. How good, how elite can this wide receiver room be? Because you're looking, 300 miles west of here at the best wide receiver room in the country in Columbus, right? With Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Ibuka. We got to be able to somewhat match that. Penn State does. And so, yeah, I think those are Amari and Keandre Lambert-Smith are going to be two guys who really got to step up if this team wants to compete at a high level.
Yeah, and kind of before we hop over to the tight end room, before we touch on that, I think it's good to note that Mike Yurcich does a great job of kind of hiding not necessarily the weaknesses, but where they lack talent. I think his scheme is going to revolve this year around. We saw what he did last year with Brenton Strange, Theo Johnson, bringing in Tyler Warren in special packages. But Garrett, 2 years ago, I made the claim that. Last year when Brenton Strange was kind of on the radar, I had made the claim that he was more talented than Mike Gesicki, and that was kind of my hottest take. And this year, I made that the first episode last year, and he had a career year, as you know, and he's doing awesome with the Jags right now, one of PFF's highest-rated rookies at the tight end position there. I think this year, Keandre Lambert-Smith is going to have a similar impact Jahan Dotson did that COVID year. I'm not going to compare them in talent-wise. Jahan Dotson's one of the most talented receivers ever play at Penn State, and he's finding some success in the NFL. But I think it's a big year for Keandre Lambert-Smith. I think he's going to have the opportunities to do really big. But also in the passing game back is Theo Johnson, who led the Big Ten in yards per catch at 17 a game last year. So he's a playmaker. So the playmakers are there. And like you said, serviceable. That's a big word, because Penn State doesn't need Drew Allar to be serviceable. They need him to be spectacular. Like, we're done doing the days of being game manager. It's like, brother, take over the game, be that missing piece that Penn State hasn't had. And I'm looking forward to that. And the offense is there. The defense is really there. Last year, the best statistical season defensively from a yards per game standpoint since 2014. And you got to think of the defenses they've had, the defensive fronts they had. They're going to be special. And something to watch is, like you said, Joey Porter Jr. gone. He's in the NFL, which bumps up So they got Kalen King, obviously, as the number one there. And another guy to watch out is Johnny Dixon. I wouldn't be surprised if he had an interception this game. He's going to be a playmaker. He was a 3 last year, but he would have started on probably 55 Division I teams outside of probably Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia at the cornerback spot. He is special to watch.
Yeah.
They bring back. I mean, they have a top 10 D line in the country. They have a top 5 secondary. It's going to be special to watch, really the entire year. And with that being said, it's week 1. They open up at home against West Virginia, a team that's really struggled the last few years. Neil Brown on the hot seat, can't deny that. Three losing seasons in 4 years. West Virginia had 1 in the previous 16 before the Brown tenure, and they were just abysmal last year. They had 6 double-digit losses, but then they ended the year with wins against Oklahoma and Baylor. So it's kind of weird. They're not a frisky team. They're not a good team. I don't know. It's a winnable game. Garrett, when you first saw West Virginia on the schedule, when you think of West Virginia, what comes to mind immediately?
Yeah, they're far away from where they were when they had Pat White and Noel Devine and guys like that. Neil Brown is probably on the hottest seat of anybody in Power 5 college football. He's going to be someone who, if you get a win like this, it can really help. His tenure, you'll really get West Virginia off to a good start. Because they have Pitt in 2 or 3 weeks, and then they got to go, Texas Tech, TCU, and the gauntlet begins for the conference schedule. And so, they're only returning 54% of production from last year. That's third to last in the Big 12, from a team that went 5-7 and really was just hard to peg down. They did have some games that were close that they lost, but from what I'm hearing, just to on the inside a little bit, it's that West Virginia struggles to move the ball on offense, and they're not going to be able to score a lot of points. They're going to try to keep this game slower paced, lower points. If they can keep it under a total of 30 to 35, I think that potentially they have a chance. But yeah, I would say that this is a game that opening season. They want to try to be, or opening game of the season, they want to try to be able to, take the crowd out of it. At Beaver Stadium, obviously, it being a night game, things are going to be a little unhinged. If they can have a strong first quarter, I think that they would take that, obviously. If Penn State gets off to a hot start, it's going to be a long night for them. And so, if this crowd sees that, Drew lives up to the hype in the first quarter, this game is going to be a walk. And so, it just really comes down to, they're a Power 5 opponent. They have athletes. It's hard to peg them down because they've been sort of a Power 5 team, not to ramble on here, but that's sort of been lost in the transfer portal era, a team that's not been able to really capitalize from recruiting, capitalize from the transfer portal. They've been kind of poached from rather than doing the poaching. And so it kind of feels like a rudderless ship. And I think we're going to know early on where these teams are at. Year 3 of a coach that's kind of been sputtering, you can have a team quit on him pretty quickly. And so you don't overlook this team. I don't think anybody is overlooking this team inside the locker room. But it's going to, if the game is getting out of hand early, I think it's just going to continue to go. It's going to be a little bit of an avalanche-like effect for Penn State against West Virginia.
Yeah, and then they're at a disadvantage to begin with. They lost their top 4 wideouts, their top 2 tight ends from last year. Like you said, the graduation, the transfer portal absolutely depleted this team. And they're going to come in fired up. They're going to play they're going to be emotionally high energy to begin. But I think at the end of the game, at the end of the day, Penn State's got more dudes than West Virginia has. But it's a Power 5 team. It's not Kent State. No disrespect to Kent State. We love some action here, but they're a team that kind of lost its spark. And like what you said when you were talking about the Pat White, Steve Slayton, Owen Schmidt days, I'm sorry. This new West Virginia offense is what they're trying to get back to. So what you're going to see is a lot of pre-snap motion. You might see a fullback this weekend inside of Beaver Stadium, even though they're not playing Big Ten football. I'm serious. They run a lot of multi-set backfields, and that's really how you're going to do it. And I'll just kind of give a brief overfly of personnel here. A lot of RPOs, a lot of zone reads from West Virginia. In terms of their defense, they do run a 4-2-5 base, and if they bring four guys, they better pack the box. Or Penn State's going to run for 400 yards. They can't play like they do in the Big 12. Or Penn State's going to run. They're going to have a field day out there. With that being said, it's Drew Allar's first career start. And traditionally, I mean, when a quarterback makes a start at Penn State, it's the first game of the year. It's a tune-up game. The last three quarterbacks to do that, I went back to Matt McGloin back in 2010. He had a 41-31 win over Michigan. That was his first start. Christian Hackenberg was at Syracuse in 2013, won that. Trace McSorley, 79-7 win against Idaho at home. So it's fared well. And
real disrespect to the Vandals.
Yeah. That was a good Vandal team too.
Yeah,
that was a great Vandal team.
And Mike, to your point, and to your point, real quick, this is the first time since 2015 that a guy not named Trace McSorley or Sean Clifford is quarterbacking a Penn State team. That is, in this day and age in football and college football, that's incredible.
Yeah, and it's not like the Ohio State where they run through the quarterback every 2 years there, and they throw him to the NFL and they end up as a third string quarterback for the Washington Commanders or the so it's exciting. I'm excited for the Drew experience to start here. Penn State opens up as a 20-point favorite. I think the over-under is hovering around 55. In terms of prediction here, Garrett, we're not going to say Penn State's going to lose this game. Like you mentioned it earlier, the way West Virginia wants to do is slow the game down. They want to win a low scoring. Because if they get in a shootout, Penn State may win this game 70-25. If they try to do that, they want to control the clock, but they're at a disadvantage because they don't have guys who can do that. They're going to try to throw the ball, and when they throw the ball down, our secondary is going to take advantage of it. Our pass rush is going to get to them. It comes down to the dudes, but like I said, I'm very excited for this new experience here. Just a quick note: they did lose Josiah Trotter, son of Jeremiah Trotter, two-time All-Pro for the Eagles there, and his brother actually is at Clemson now. But so they're at a disadvantage there, and they're hurting everywhere. So Mountaineers are coming to town. We'll bring back this game because we haven't done it. I think we did it a couple times last year. Let's draft before we get into our predictions and first touchdown score. Let's play a little favorite alumnus from the West Virginia Mountaineers. I'll flip a coin here. All right, it's heads. You go first.
Okay. I'm in between two, but I'm going to go with a little controversial, but we're okay with that. I'm going to go with Bob Huggins.
Bob Huggins at number one.
Obviously not honorable mention. I am going to put an honorable mention. Jeff Hostetler, friend of the family. Played for West Virginia. Started at Penn State before Todd Blackledge came in and took the starting role. Transferred to West Virginia. Played at the Giants. But we're going to go with Bob Huggins for the main pick on my end.
Okay.
He's a misunderstood guy. Big heart.
My number one pick.
A little too much, but big heart.
Yeah, we're talking about the person here. Or the coach here. Yeah. I'm gonna go Steve Harvey, number one. He was number one on my big board. I think he was he's one of the most important people, not only to come out of West Virginia, but on this planet right now. Just a great guy overall.
I thought you were going to go with Pat McAfee.
No, he's on my list, but Steve Harvey's number one. We'll sneak it. My number two is Rodney Hot Rod Clark. Remember him?
Okay.
You don't remember him? He was the number one pick in the 1957 draft for basketball. Went to the Cincinnati Royals. Had a hecker career there. Player turned broadcaster. So Rod Hundley, Hot Rod is my number two.
Nice. I didn't know. Wait, so how many do we pick? 3? Is that how it works?
Yeah, we'll go 3.
Okay, then I guess my second pick I picked Bob Huggins. I picked Jeff Hostetler. I guess my last pick will be. Oh man, I'm gonna go Billy Mays. I'm gonna go with Billy Mays.
That was my pick.
Billy Mays here with a special TV offer. For only 29 minutes, 29.99 minutes. Just tune into the Michael David Kresovich Straight from the Crest podcast.
Rest in peace, Billy Mays.
Yeah. Too soon. Gone too soon. Selling kitchen products from heaven.
My final pick. I have 2 picks for this actually. My final pick is this is a 2-parter. Right. Rich Rod and Mike Florio.
Rich Rod went to West Virginia. Yeah. They went to West Virginia. Oh my gosh.
Rich Rod and Mike
gracious.
Florio. Internet dad Mike Florio.
That is wild. Yeah, he's all of our internet dad.
So yeah, take that to your tailgate this weekend.
Okay. Crazy.
Talk to the people about Hot Rod Hundley. Drop that fact on him. He was drafted Cincinnati Royals basketball team.
Yeah.
So the Mountaineers are coming in.
Yep.
They're probably ranked 83rd if I had to label them right now in the country. 20-point favorite. Your prediction, who's scoring the first touchdown here?
Katron Allen. I think Nick Singleton might have I think there's a big throw on the first drive, big completion. Nicholas Singleton gets it down inside the 5, and then we go power T to Katron to punch it in 7-0 early lead for the Nittany Lions.
Okay. And final score prediction?
Yeah. Just looking at a few different metrics. Looking at SP Plus, I'm a big SP Plus guy. Likes Penn State covering. And I also like Penn State covering, but I think it's close. I think we have a 34-10 game on our hands. 35-13, something like that, with a line being, hovering between 20 and 21. They're a Power 5 team. We're not opening with Georgia State. We're not opening, like you said, with Kent State. You're opening with a Big 12 team that has historically had a lot of pedigree and a lot of pride. I think that there's going to be a good showing of West Virginia fans in the stadium, as they're only 2.5 hours away. And so I think it's a battle early. I think there's a little bit of feeling each other out. Pause on that one, but a little bit of feel. What is Josh Pate says something funny when he says something suggestive like that on his podcast. He says whatever, I forget, something like pause or whatever. But both teams are gonna kind of just kind of dodge and duck a little bit, and then I think Penn State kind of lays the hammer down as we get into the second quarter, and then the second half the defense really gets the clamps in. A couple interceptions. West Virginia will have a hard time scoring the football over that glass plane that we talked about at the goal line. So I'm going to go 34-10 Penn State.
Okay, yeah. In terms of score prediction, I had 38-17. And I think from a handicapping standpoint, I would stay away from that 20. I think if you're looking to get an angle in this, I would look at the first half Penn State, because it's going to be around, I would say, 13.5, 11.5. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 21-0 Penn State at the end of the first, 21-3. And as far as first touchdowns, I think it's going to be between a 45-yard pass to Theo Johnson on either a crossing route or just needles them with a seam route, beats the safeties, and Drew Lar gets it going first drive of the game there. But yeah, so 38-17, we're both consensus there in terms of pretty easy.
Yeah.
Pretty easy Penn State win. And are you back on Twitter yet, or are you still incognito? Because I know you like to go. Twitter. Are you public yet, or what's going on?
Do you want me to go public?
I was gonna drop your thing, because I got a few plugs to plug in. If you guys want some good college football content,
I'll go. It's college football season. I'll go back. I don't think I'm private. Let's see. I don't even know right now. No, I'm not private.
I may have made that up.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've kind of waffled around a little bit with it, but Instagram, I'm private, so don't give out my Instagram tag. But at Garrett MB, there will be, it's a pretty sports heavy account at this point. There's been some different, sports and weather, man. Those are the two things on that account, and so, and then once we carry over in the basketball season, a lot of different offensive sets being retweeted by that account. So if you like you're into that stuff, Mike, real quick, one thing. I'll tell you what, man, the hype train is going to be off the charts if Drew has a big night. That's the one thing I'll say. If Drew comes out and has 18 for 22, 285 and 3 touchdowns, man, it's going to be hard to keep this thing under control. I know we want to get through week 1, 1-0 mentality, one game at a time, but that's just something I'm going to be looking for. I think everybody's going to be looking for. This guy's supposed to be the future. We've been talking about it, tweeting about it, since the day he signed, and so it's going to be cool to finally see this come to pass. It's put up or shut up time for some of the guys in the roster.
Absolutely, and you're going to be at the game. I'm unfortunately not. I'm surviving hurricanes down here in Charleston, but
yeah,
I'll be watching tentatively as well. First home opener I think I've missed since like 2009, which is crazy, but
that is wild.
It's all right. We'll be there to white out. Yeah, guys, every Thursday, as we know, we're back to it. Next week, we'll be a little more in-depth in terms of we're going to break down this Penn State game and preview the Blue Hens of Delaware as they come into Beaver Stadium. But Garrett, as always, brother, appreciate the time here.
Yeah.
Enjoy the opener here, and appreciate you guys listening, and enjoy the weekend.
Got a whiskey drinking fever that I cannot shake, and those girls downtown are more than I can take.